Hi there, I'm Heather Watson, Executive Director at Farm Management Canada. We're located in Ottawa, Ontario, and I'm pleased to bring you today's presentation. We were asked by the team at AgSmart to speak about the connection between ag tech, data, and farm business management. And so the title of today's presentation is How Ag Tech and Farm Business Management Are Not Only BFFs, as in best friends forever, but actually interdependent. So what comes to mind when you think of ag tech? Usually it's exciting, it's cutting edge, it's sexy, it's cool, it's the fun part of farming, and robot bees, right? That's really exciting. But what comes to mind when you think of farm business management, which is the realm that we work in every day? Typically, these are the images that come to mind. It's, oh my gosh, I don't have time to even think about anything else after a long, hard day. It's boring. It's sitting in front of a computer or in front of a spreadsheet. I don't even know what it means. You know, what's the difference between business management, production management? There's a lot of confusion, and it's not super exciting at first glance anyways. And I know what you're thinking, that ag tech and farm business management are really worlds apart. On one side, you've got production. On the other side, you've got business. On one side, you got the cool, sexy stuff going on. And the other side, you're crunching numbers, or you're trying to figure out how to get everyone, you know, behind the same business plan or future of the farm. And so you think these two things are mutually exclusive and they're worlds apart. However, they're actually more like peas and carrots. You'll see in this presentation that they actually go together quite fantastically and quite on purpose, especially when we look at things from the business management lens, and how are you building your capacity to make good decisions that affect both the future of the business from a strategy and people side, but also from a production, marketing, environment side. So farm business management is really about having accurate, reliable data to create a realistic picture of what's possible. So that's where the data piece comes in. And then as well, a plan to guide you towards success and soliciting the necessary support to get you there. And in terms of support, it can be advisors, it can be other types of experts, agronomy experts, etc., business advisors. But also technology is a support that can get you where you want to go in your farm business and on the production side as well. So it's really about taking that proactive approach to build this underlying capacity to manage risk while seizing every opportunity and positioning the farm for continued success. So, you know, I think of farmers as and ranchers as entrepreneurs at heart, right? Let's try the latest and greatest thing. Let's stay at that leading edge. Let's take the competitive advantage. But what's really important is stopping and thinking, you know, do we have the capacity to succeed in this new venture? What are the risks behind moving in this direction? And it's not that we want to be the wet blanket, but we just want to kind of take some time to consider what could happen, good, bad, or ugly, and do we have a plan in place for no matter what happens, what the future holds. About Farm Management Canada, I wanted to talk about this now because you'll kind of see where we're going with the presentation, but our organization was actually created out of crisis. So right now we find ourselves, you know, I don't know if I'd call it the post-COVID era yet, but certainly I hope the worst is behind us. And that's kind of the same type of scenario that created our organization. So in the 1980s, there was a farm financial crisis. Commodity prices tanked, interest rates soared, and it left a lot of farmers high and dry. And so government and industry got together and they thought, you know, how can we help farmers build the capacity to succeed and to seize opportunity while managing risk? And they turned to farm business management. So investing in the skills associated with, planning for what if scenarios, building your resiliency on the financial side of farming, making sure that the next generation has the skills and capacity to take over the farm and keep running successful businesses, etc. So looking at farm business management as a way to build resiliency, competitiveness, and of course, prosperity. As an organization, we've been around for a long time now, and our mandate continues to be the same. So we want to connect producers with, information, resources, tools that help increase awareness, appreciation, and adoption of business management practices on the farm. We do that as a non-government, national nonprofit body. So we kind of consider ourselves as a public service. And some days I feel like we're we're a bit like Buckley's. We're kind of worth the pain for the gain. In terms of the outcomes you can expect from adopting business practices, but it's not very appetizing when you start thinking about more things to manage on the farm. So we host and we connect producers with skills development opportunities, resources and tools to really build that capacity to seize opportunities while managing risk, and being able to take calculated risks going forward. So when it comes to the adoption of new technology, what data do you have at your disposal to really inform, is this a good idea? If it is, how do we know that it is? And how do we measure that it continues to be a good idea? And do we have the capacity to continue to succeed, down the road 3 years from now, 5 years from now, etc. So really kind of pulling in the reins on that entrepreneurial spirit a bit to make sure that the direction you're going makes sense, and you've kind of built the foundation to succeed in going in that direction. So at Farm Management Canada, we do a lot of research. We're always looking at what are the tried and true practices of the top farmers. What's getting in the way? What are the barriers to adopting these practices? Why are such a small portion of farmers looking at their farms as a business, etc.? And so I'll get into some of that here, but one of our, I guess, most renowned research projects was called Dollars and Cents. And we did a national study in Canada looking at the adoption of business practices across Canada, across commodities, regions, and other demographics. And then we looked at, okay, how are these farms performing financially? And then we were able to kind of compare, okay, those farms that have the top performance. So, the greatest, profitability ratios, debt servicing ratios, et cetera, et cetera. What are they doing differently from those farms that aren't performing financially well? And what we came out with 7 practices that were differentiating the top and bottom farmers. And so I've got them here on the screen in front of me, and I'll just take a little minute to read them. So it was interesting, surprising in a good way, that the number one correlating factor for financial performance was actually commitment to lifelong learning and skills development. You might think, oh, it's having access to the latest technology, or it's having really good soil or really good genetics, but really it's that commitment to always look for, there must be a better way, there must be a way to improve. And, how can I guess, increase my database of information so that I can make informed decisions and take calculated risks going forward. So that was number one. So the fact that you're participating in AgSmart is a really, really good thing. And it means you're doing more than 50% of the producers across Canada are doing. So congratulations to you. We also look at number 2, business decisions made using accurate financial data. So again, looking at the connection between ag data and tech, you kind of need that reliable, timely, informed data to move forward, to figure out, is there a more efficient way? What is my efficiency? Is there a better way of doing this? And how am I going to measure whether it is better and whether it's consistently better? So, for example, like I think of precision agriculture, and I think of, when field mapping came about, and all of a sudden we can start to see this added layer of knowledge on our fields, and we can see, okay, that area, needs a little bit more moisture, especially this year, or that area has too much moisture, or here's the yield densities and things like that. Well, imagine applying that same technology to your financial performance. So it's not just, am I in the red or am I in the black, but you have this added layer of being able to see, how are these decisions or these management techniques affecting my profitability? If I decide to invest in this technology, what does it do for my debt repayment? What does it do for my cash flow? How long am I going to be paying this off? And of course, what are the rewards down the road? So it kind of adds this layer of, okay, now I can get into details and I can start to make even more minute decisions that are going to precision ag, precisely affect the outcomes, this case on the financial side. So accurate data is key. We still have a lot of producers that aren't using, the latest and greatest technology for accounting and bookkeeping, for example. And that can be, it can hold you back a little bit, because if you can't, source and manipulate the data really quickly and kind of in real time, it stalls your ability to make decisions based on that data. And most of the time you'd say, okay, well, I don't have the information to go on, so I'm just going to go off of my gut, which might not be the best decision. Number 3 is seeking the help of business advisors and consultants. So reaching out for help in the same way, just earlier I talked about how, technology can certainly, kind of fill the gap in terms of expert techniques that you readily wouldn't have your own hands on. Having a written business plan, following it and reviewing it annually. We'll talk about the importance of that, especially in a mental health capacity, as well as when you talk about, building the farm to be successful for the next generation. So it's really, really key to, plan ahead, look at the different scenarios, do some contingency planning, and as well, involve the people that will be involved in the future of the business and now in those conversations, so they feel engaged and part of that future of the business. Knowing and monitoring your cost of production and what it means for profit. Again, data can help lead you to making informed decisions, especially in this case in terms of profitability. Assessing risk and having a plan to manage and mitigate risk. That's separate from business planning, because risk is really about, where are we uncertain and how can we add some certainty, and lots of different tools to manage risk. Having a business plan is one way to manage risk. But certainly lots of other ways, including the BRM programs and using new technology. So if there's a way of doing something that has a risk to farm safety or to the environment, then you can mitigate some of those risks through technology. Or labor comes to mind as well. Difficulty recruiting and hiring and keeping workers. Sometimes technology can alleviate those woes by replacing people, and people can be used in a different capacity to work with the machines, or you're bringing on a whole new group of people to service those machines or technology. And then finally, using a budget and financial plan to monitor your financial position and options. So again, having access to that data in real time as you need it, when you need it, as well as, when things are calm, cool, and collected, taking the time to think in advance. How do we want this to go? And then having a mechanism in place to kind of measure your progress along the way. And as well, and one of the bonuses behind the research we did here was that then we said, okay, well, what's the financial difference between those top and bottom performers? And the difference was tenfold. So for example, on gross margin ratio, for example, which is your measure of profitability, those, the 25% of bottom performing farms were bringing in, $10,000 of profit, compared to the top performing, which were $100,000 of profit. So yeah, so management matters financially, but not just financially. So a study that we just finished doing in 2020, we called Healthy Minds, Healthy Farms. And so again, we did a series of, surveys and interviews and focus groups, and we wanted to look at, okay, what is the current status of stress in the farming population? Why is the population stressed? What are the reasons for that? What are the business practices being followed? What are the coping mechanisms being used? And then, kind of looking at why or why not do you use these business practices and coping mechanisms. So yeah, through our research, not surprisingly, overwhelming majority of Canada's farmers are stressed. We knew that from Andrea Jones-Bitton work at University of Guelph and others, but we just wanted to see it in the context of this study. When we asked about what is the greatest stressors to you, the unpredictable nature of the industry, workload pressures, and financial pressures were the main culprits. There were tons and tons that we asked about, but those were the main pieces. So, not having enough time, not having enough money, and not really knowing what's coming next. So we also found that less than a quarter of farms actually follow a written business plan for their farm, which, means we need to do some work. But of those that do, 88% reported that following a written business plan contributed to their peace of mind and helped alleviate stress. So this is where, comparing to the dollars and cents, we know the top 7 practices based on financial performance, and now we're starting to see some of those practices surface when it comes to supporting positive mental health. So that's a very good thing, and gives us, another reason to invest in farm business management. And as well, of course, the connection to ag tech and building the capacity to take on technology by having the foundation to make sure it's going to work for you, you're going to succeed, and not be left high and dry. So simply put, planning helps reduce uncertainty, risk, and stress. And planning isn't just for the business side of the business, but as you probably know, planning is for the production side as well as the technology side. What kinds of technologies do I want to bring into my business? How am I going to measure their success? How am I going to know it's time to look at replacing technologies or new technologies? How am I going to embrace, open-minded thinking about different and new ways of doing things? All that comes back to planning. So no matter what technology floats your boat, I think it's important to ask yourself, do I have the right resources and practices in place to take full advantage of the technology? So whether it's a technology on the production side, in the field, whether it's those, robot bees for pollination, whether it's bringing technology into the greenhouse or into the combine, the latest and greatest, really asking yourselves, do I have the skills required to assess the technology as an effective tool for the farm? Do I have the financial capacity to adopt and maintain the technology? Do I have the skills required to use the technology and interpret the new data from the technology? Do I have the support required to maintain and upgrade the technology? So, whether it's the service team or maintenance team, how readily available are they? Can they come at a moment's notice and get you out of a bind? And do I have the data systems to link the information to decision-making and future planning? We talk a lot about data overload, right? Like you can Google just about anything and you get millions and trillions of results. But, what really counts is what information is readily available to me in a way that I can use to make a timely decision. So it's not enough to have access to the data. You have to figure out, is this data important to me? Can I use it to make an informed decision? Or is it just a whole bunch of noise? So really thinking about, do you have the systems in place to, pick out the golden nuggets and the minute details of the data that's going to support your decision making. And, when I see the current state of ag tech, I see it, predominantly focused on production technology. Oftentimes we hear, let's invest in innovation. Innovation is a huge word that's being used all the time, but it seems to always be relegated to innovation in terms of production technology for higher quality, higher yield, better performance in the field, in the barn, in the greenhouse, etc. Um, but thinking back to the benefits of planning, the benefits of kind of formulating, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? How am I going to know I'm successful at it? Looking at that fundamental recipe of establishing a vision, long-term goal, investigating where technology can support the vision and goal, and then cultivating the capacity of the farm team. So, the financials, the environment, the people, to really manage and effectively use the technology. And as well, thinking that innovation isn't just limited to the production side of farming, but innovation really comes into play on the business management side of things too. So it can help alleviate the challenges of managing the farm as a business by addressing labor challenges through automation and robotics, for example, addressing weather, climate, soil health, pest and disease challenges through precision agriculture, address public trust, consumer trends through traceability RFID, address data access management analysis through cloud computing and software, address consumer needs or customer needs, through online retail options, and address performance through benchmarking and comparative analysis. So, data and technology isn't just, about yield and agronomics, but it's really about, applying those concepts to the fundamentals of running a business. How can I use the latest and greatest technology to better run my farm business? And as well, it applies to farm business management. There's automated bookkeeping tools. There's technologies that help you build your business plan, build your budgets, and that should be tracking progress through the cloud, for example. So rather than having an old dusty binder on your office desk or on your shelf or buried under a whole bunch of other stuff, having that cloud technology that gives everyone access to that information, can contribute together, things like Google Drive, etc. You can co-create. So there's technologies around how you go about these business management activities. Also accessing and analyzing finances and financial performance. There's really cool software that helps you kind of see a dashboard in real time of, how are you performing financially? What's your cash flow look like today versus tomorrow? And what happens if interest rates soar, in a week's time? So really having that quick access to information that can be changed and altered by the individual, but also by the team. A virtual office. I know in New Zealand, there's this software that kind of brings everyone together as a virtual office. You can, actually see, where people are on the farm, what they're doing. They can kind of log in and check. I've arrived at this field. I'm, going over here now. This is what we did here, etc. And even things like accessing, the plan of the day or the plan of the week. Maybe some standard operating procedures. How do I do this again? So that virtual office space makes it easy to manage the farm and then, be part of that farm team running the farm. And then connecting and tracking employee progress and performance, as I just described. I just wanted to, when we're talking about, different technologies and things, we've got a ton of resources available. But I thought I would just point to this one at takeanewapproach.ca. So we have all of our, resources and tools and calculators and learning programs and skills development opportunities at this one website. So although we have a lot of stuff and I could go on and on and on about it, this is a really good place to start. So you can start seeing, the tools and resources available to start looking at or continue looking at your farm as a business and looking at that connection between, um, you know, how do I put my kind of farm business management glasses on and look at ag tech and data through that lens, which is what I'm trying to do with you today. So, thinking of innovation and technology, not just production, but is there a technology that can help me better manage my finances? Is there a technology that can help me better manage my staff? Is there technology that can help me better manage, markets and when I should be selling, or how long I should be storing, et cetera, et cetera. So really encouraging you to think about looking at the business side of farming, and how technology can support that, but also how uh, how your current production technology could perhaps be connected to some of the business management information. So one of my frustrations in the industry is that, over here you've got so many, so many, so many companies that give you production data, and a lot of them are starting to work in financial data. So that's great, right? Because you can benchmark, what's my yield, what's my quality, how much did this cost, how much did that cost, how much money did I make? But what we're lacking is the business management side of things. So what does production and financial performance have to do with labor efficiency? Who's doing what? What's the most efficient way of doing this? Is the compensation working, or are we having issues with staff turnover? So I feel like when we just look at production and finances, we're not getting a complete picture of the whole farm and how everything works together. And then add on top of that business management. So what business management strategies and practices am I employing? What information am I getting told from, production and financial that helps inform business management? Or what business management practices can I see having an effect on production and financial and labor? So I've always kind of felt like the secret to success is out there somewhere. If someone can combine all of this, because it's really that whole farm, looking at how does all of this information translate into making decisions, and how does all that relate to ag tech? um, I would argue that it's probably very difficult to replace the decisions being made by the farm manager, the leader of the team, etc. But I think that ag tech could probably be applied in a lot more ways to business management, strategic planning, financial management, etc. But I have yet to meet a technology that accounts for that whole farm piece. So this is kind of what I mean in a quick and dirty diagram, but looking at, do we have something that can give us environmental data, production data, financial data, labor data, and business strategy data, so that we can say, okay, so if I make an adjustment here, what does it do to the rest of the picture? If I decide to extend my work days by an hour, or better yet, if I decide everyone's going to have every Sunday off because we're appreciating mental health, we're appreciating family, what does that do for every other area of managing my farm? Does it affect, how we can pull the crops off, or how we're working with our animals? Does it affect our revenue? Does it affect our this, that, and the other? Or, does the lower turnover or better mental health state positively affect all those areas? So it'd be really interesting to see, how we can use this data all together to look at a whole farm approach to planning, decision making, and then of course changing course when and if we have to. So that's my dream. That's my dream as, you know, a small town girl living in Ottawa, talking to folks out in Alberta, Olds College and AgSmart. If anyone can solve that problem, do let me know. But in the meantime, I hope that I've shone some light on the importance of the connection between data, ag tech, and farm business management, and how it would be really cool to, you know, be able to put, you know, your tech glasses on and look at farm business management, or your business management glasses on and look at tech, and how those two can kind of intersect and come together for a whole farm picture that really kind of lets you see where we are now, what's possible, and you know, thinking outside of the box. How can I get to where I need to go, especially if the technology doesn't exist yet, but if it does, how do I know that this is the best decision for me? What information do I have to go on to take calculated risks, but all the while being open to and in a position to seize opportunity and remain resilient and prosperous through that. So with that, I do wish you a wonderful event. We wish we could be there in person, of course. Maybe next year will be a better year for us. But for now, we'll say goodbye from Ottawa. Feel free to reach out with any questions, any comments. We're on social media at fmc.gac, or I'm at Ms. Heather Watson if you want to find me, or our website, fmc-gac.com. So you're welcome to connect with me whenever you like. And I think that's it for today. We'll stop it there. So thanks again. Really appreciate your attention. And I hope I've stimulated some thinking around this. And I welcome more conversations, next conversation, and hope we can come see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye.